Why do you keep returning to the same person who tore your heart apart? How can pain feel so addictive that you miss it when it's gone? This isn't love. It's a silent captivity, an invisible chain linking your heart to the one who wounded it the deepest. You've felt it before. The intoxicating highs, the soul-crushing lows. One moment they're your savior, the next, your tormentor. Yet, no matter how many times you promise yourself, this was the last time, you find yourself drawn back, crawling towards the familiar darkness like an addict chasing their next hit. This terrifying paradox has a name: trauma bonding, a sinister psychological phenomenon rooted deeply within the human psyche. It's the reason hostages sympathize with their captors, the abused cling to their abusers, and why you can't seem to break away. Even Carl Jung, the master of exploring our deepest shadows, would be disturbed by this modern psychic wound. It's not just attachment, it's a haunting rewiring of your brain, embedding suffering within love itself. Today, you'll discover exactly why your heart betrays logic, why your body yearns for pain disguised as affection, and why freedom from this invisible chain feels like death. Prepare to confront your own shadows as the mask slips, and you finally recognize why you keep crawling back, even when you know it might destroy you. You never saw it coming because it started like a dream, but this dream quickly morphed into a nightmare, cycling endlessly through 4 brutal stages: idealization, devaluation, discard, and hoovering. Love bombing, idealization stage. At first, they make you feel uniquely special, seen and understood like no one else could. This is called love bombing. You're flooded with affection, attention, and intimacy that feels magical, almost too good to be true. They mirror your dreams, values, and desires perfectly, convincing you you've finally found your soulmate. Dopamine surges, and you're hooked, emotionally and chemically. Devaluation. Then, subtly at first, comes the shift. The same person who once worshipped you begins undermining your confidence. Small criticisms replace compliments. Affection gives way to unpredictable moods. You try desperately to regain their approval, but nothing is enough. You're confused, anxious, constantly doubting yourself. Their emotional coldness feels unbearable, yet strangely addictive, pulling you deeper into self-blame. Discard. Eventually the blow arrives: abrupt abandonment, emotional withdrawal, or cruel indifference. They might ghost you completely or openly reject you. This is the discard stage, leaving you emotionally shattered, desperate for answers. You spiral into deep confusion and despair, your nervous system screaming for relief. The sudden loss feels devastating, as if a part of your identity has vanished with them. Hoovering. But just as you begin to find strength or clarity, they resurface, seemingly remorseful, kind, even loving again. This is hoovering, named after a vacuum that sucks you back in. They offer apologies, promises of change, or nostalgic reminders of your good times. A single message or gesture reignites hope, restarting the cycle. Dopamine floods your brain again, chemically reinforcing the bond, and once more, you're trapped. This emotional roller coaster isn't accidental. It's a deliberate manipulation designed to keep you in perpetual limbo, desperately chasing fleeting moments of affection amidst chronic despair. Your brain, heart, and psyche are continuously rewired to associate pain with intimacy, confusion with passion, chaos with love. Recognizing these 4 stages clearly: idealization, devaluation, discard, and hoovering is crucial. Understanding them exposes the cycle, giving you clarity to break free. It's not just about them, it's about reclaiming your life from a twisted loop that was never love, but always control. Your friends and family ask, "Why can't you just leave?" They don't understand how deeply your brain has been hijacked. Trauma bonding isn't just emotional, it's a chemical addiction, a potent neurological cocktail keeping you trapped in a cycle you desperately want to break. When you're stuck in this toxic dance, your brain floods with dopamine, the same neurotransmitter activated by drugs like cocaine and heroin. During the good times, the apologies, love bombing, and brief moments of tenderness, your dopamine surges, providing intense pleasure and reward. You feel euphoric, wanted, safe. But here's the dark secret. Dopamine spikes not only during happiness, but also during chaos and uncertainty. The tension, the arguments, the unpredictable cycles of kindness and cruelty. These become neurologically addictive. Your brain learns to crave the highs and the lows, creating a roller coaster you become chemically attached to. Simultaneously, your body produces oxytocin, commonly known as the bonding hormone. Typically, oxytocin helps build healthy attachments like those between a parent and child. But trauma bonding twists this natural process. Oxytocin now binds you emotionally to your abuser, especially when they briefly offer reassurance or affection after mistreatment. This paradoxically strengthens your bond, making you feel even closer to the person harming you. Stress hormones, primarily cortisol, also play a critical role. Your body constantly floods with cortisol during abuse. This chronic stress eventually feels normal, even comforting. In periods of calm, your body subconsciously craves stress again because the chaos feels familiar, even safe. This biological betrayal ensures your nervous system stays tethered to trauma, mistaking it for home. Your unconscious mind repeats traumatic cycles because unresolved trauma seeks resolution by replaying the pain in hopes of a different outcome. But the outcome never changes, keeping you locked in emotional purgatory. You don't stay because you're weak or naive. You stay because your nervous system is desperately seeking equilibrium, even if it means repeating trauma. Understanding the neurochemical chains binding you can finally break the false narrative of self-blame. It's not your fault. Your brain was meticulously rewired to make escape seem impossible. But recognition is liberation. When you know exactly why you stay, the chains lose their strength, and your freedom comes within reach. It's not just chemistry and psychology keeping you chained. There's something even deeper beneath the surface, hidden within your psyche. Trauma bonding speaks directly to the wounded inner child and activates what Jung called the shadow, the unconscious part of yourself that holds your repressed pain, fear, and unhealed wounds. When someone abuses you emotionally or psychologically, they're unknowingly speaking to the child within you. The child who longed for acceptance, love, and validation, but received neglect, abandonment, or cruelty instead. This younger part of yourself remains frozen in the past, continually seeking what was never given. In the presence of a toxic partner, your inner child desperately believes, maybe this time I'll be seen. Maybe now I'll finally be loved. The trauma bond is thus a tragic repetition of childhood wounds. Each moment of tenderness from your abuser temporarily satisfies this deep yearning, while each moment of cruelty replays past traumas, further reinforcing the emotional captivity. Your abuser becomes a distorted mirror, reflecting your unresolved childhood wounds back at you, keeping you trapped in an unconscious, never-ending pursuit of healing through the very person who perpetuates your suffering. Jung believed that we unconsciously attract people who activate our shadow, forcing hidden pain and repressed truths into consciousness. Your shadow contains all the emotions you've pushed away: fear, shame, rage, and the deep discomfort of vulnerability. Until you face these hidden parts, they control your relationships without your knowledge. You're not merely bonded to your abuser, you're bound to your own unacknowledged darkness, which manifests externally through this toxic connection. Breaking free requires profound inner work. Healing isn't about simply leaving someone. It's about finally confronting your shadow, meeting the inner child who's still desperately trying to earn love and acceptance. To sever the trauma bond, you must acknowledge your childhood wounds, validate your younger self, and learn to parent the hurt parts of your psyche with compassion and strength. Remember Jung's warning: that which we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. Your trauma bond isn't fate. It's a reflection of wounds long begging to be healed. Only when you courageously illuminate your shadow can you free yourself from the invisible chains that have kept you crawling back again and again. Breaking free from a trauma bond isn't initially relief. It feels like dying. It's a brutal paradox. Freedom brings not peace, but an overwhelming grief, confusion, and despair. But why? Your identity, shaped and twisted by trauma, depends entirely on the very cycle you're trying to escape. Leaving isn't simply letting go of another person. It's abandoning an entire reality that your nervous system has grown to perceive as safe, despite its toxicity. When the trauma bond breaks, your mind plunges into withdrawal, just as intense as any addiction. You find yourself grappling with deep cognitive dissonance. A voice in your head screams, "Maybe it wasn't all bad. Maybe I exaggerated the pain." This inner voice isn't rational. It's the echo of your wounded self, desperately clinging to what feels familiar. To your unconscious mind, losing this toxic relationship means losing yourself. Jung referred to this psychological phenomenon as the necessary disintegration before individuation. To grow and heal, you must first experience profound psychic breakdown, shedding old layers, identities, and attachments. This shedding is incredibly painful because you're confronting a version of yourself that's now dying. The person you became through trauma can't survive in a life free from chaos. The intense grief you feel when leaving a trauma bond is thus mourning the loss of who you were. Your brain screams, your heart aches, and the emptiness feels unbearable. But this death is necessary. As Jung warned, true transformation requires descending into the depths, dismantling illusions, and facing profound darkness. Only by enduring this psychic death can you finally emerge whole, authentic, and genuinely free. It hurts so profoundly because it's real. You're finally letting go, not just of them, but of the mask you've worn to survive. Breaking the trauma bond isn't about self-help cliches or motivational mantras. It demands courage, ruthless honesty, and disciplined psychological work. Here's the blunt, unvarnished truth of how you sever this toxic connection. First, Acknowledge explicitly what you're dealing with. Name it out loud. Write down every detail of your toxic cycles, the good moments that trapped you, and the cruelty that shattered you. Seeing the patterns starkly laid out can break denial's powerful grip. Next, go completely no contact or at least severely limit interaction. Block them, delete messages, avoid checking their profiles. Every small interaction resets your neurological addiction, prolonging your suffering. No contact isn't punishment, it's detox. Replace the trauma-induced dopamine hits intentionally. Your brain will crave the chaotic highs, so you must consciously create new, healthier sources of reward, activities that nourish rather than deplete you, creative projects, exercise, genuine friendships, or therapy. Embrace shadow work. Jung said clearly, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life." Engage in shadow journaling. Write out your darkest fears, your shame, and your unmet needs. Therapy, especially trauma-informed therapy, or EMDR, can guide you to heal at the root rather than treating surface symptoms. Most critically, commit to inner reparenting. Your wounded inner child still seeks external validation. It's your responsibility now to give yourself the safety and compassion you've always needed. Self-validation becomes the foundation of genuine freedom. This isn't easy. It's a psychological surgery without anesthetic. Healing trauma bonds means confronting the most painful truths of your existence head-on. But liberation is possible, precisely because you're now facing reality directly, without illusion. Breaking free isn't hopeful platitudes, it's deliberate, courageous inner warfare. And it's a battle you can finally win. These are the first steps, but you don't have to walk them alone. Subscribe to get tools, stories, and support as you reclaim your power. They didn't just break your heart, they rewired your soul. The reason you kept crawling back wasn't weakness. It was because the chains binding you weren't external. They'd become part of you, hidden deep within your own psyche. But now, the mask slips. You finally see the truth clearly. The abuser's mask of charm and cruelty was never your deepest obstacle. Your true battle was always internal, against the shadow within, against your wounded inner child desperately clinging to chaos. Carl Jung cautioned us, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your liberation begins not in chasing false promises of comfort, but in bravely confronting your own darkness. This awareness isn't gentle, it's fierce and confronting. Yet, in this painful clarity lies profound freedom. You're no longer helpless. Your power was never in their hands, it was always within yours. The mask has slipped, revealing not just their manipulation, but your own strength. Now, as you stare courageously into the darkness you've feared, the invisible chains finally loosen. This is your turning point, your chance to rewrite your story, not crawling back but rising forward. If this opened your eyes, you're not alone. Subscribe to reclaim your power, and if you're ready to take the next step, watch this next video to understand why empaths like you are targeted and how to protect yourself. Tap it now.